guys, Yvette St.Amant here. Okay, so today we are going to make this adorable little shabby tainted paper journal. And I'm going to show you the construction of it and what you need to create it. And we're going to start with, oh no, what happened? You got all fuzzy on me. Come back to me. There you are. So I did a tutorial. If you go back to my journal with me videos, I did do a tutorial on how to make these embellishments, and we're going to be using that. And what you're going to need for the cover is some watercolor paper. And I have 11 by 15 watercolor paper that I just cut in half. So I end up with 15 by, 11 by 15? Yeah, 11 by 15. So I end up with 11 by 7.5 wide sheet of paper. But, you know, it really doesn't matter. You don't have to use my exact measurements. That's what I have on hand. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to create this kind of faux leather texture for the cover. And then we're going to do the book construction, and I've got some yummy little downloads for you. And I'll give you some ideas on how to create the patterns and stuff that I have inside. It's all kind of, this one's black and white. I think I have a little bit of ochre in there. Today I'll use a little bit of blue in mine, but let's get started with the cover. So, and what's really nice about this is this cover, this is just watercolor paper, and it really has the appeal of a leather. And the tones that I used for this cover, I just used craft paper or craft paint. So I used, if you like this kind of pink and gold, I used crushed coral, and then I also used, where's my ink? Some acrylic gold ink. And then, so today, but I'm also going to show you how you can use, you know, different inks, because I do have some papers that I've already prepared so that I can get on with showing you, but I will show you how to get this texture. This one, I just used black and white ink, and I added a little bit of gold. So let me just get a scrap piece of paper down, and we're just literally going to do a wash over the paper. So the first thing you want to do is just wet your paper, and this is 140-pound watercolor paper, so it's quite thick, and you need a thicker paper to get this kind of effect, and you'll see why after. But let's just do, I've got a little bit of Indian ink here. So I'm just going to do black and white and gold today. So just get some ink, darker in some areas, lighter in others, you know. I usually have two brushes here because when I use that Indian ink, I don't want to, if I'm just putting water on my paper, I don't want it to get all gray. And then I just get some gold acrylic ink in there. And then just use your wet brush to kind of smush it around. And what's going to happen is it's just going to kind of find its own place. And it'll be thicker in some areas and thinner in others. And you'll get some really nice effects. The more water you put on it, the more that gold ink will run. So here it's pretty thick. I'm just going to add some more water. Make sure your whole page gets covered. And you can go over the black ink with your gold, and it'll just kind of spread out and diversify where you want it. And you can kind of run it like this. You'll get some marble effects if you just let it kind of drain down. gold pigment will just find its place. Okay, and you can do it as dark or as light as you want. Oops, wrong brush. I'm going to add a little more black over here, just a little bit, because I like the variations in my cover. There we go. Okay, so then what you're going to do is just, let me get a little more gold in here, and this is what happens is you'll just look at it and play, and it is going to dry a lot differently than what you're seeing now. So if you put the acrylic ink on wet, you can have it run and you'll get the nice kind of marbly effect. So I'm just going to let some run there and just make sure I've got color all the way to my edges, as this will be the cover of my book. Okay, so we're going to just set that aside to dry. Okay, just let it be. It'll dry fairly quickly. And you can do the washes with, like I mentioned, acrylic paint if you want. So if you like these colors, all I did was watered down the coral. So just put a little bit of paint in a container and add water and make it washy. And I just did the same technique, just wash. You can use any color you want, blue, purple, whatever, you know, floats your boat. And then I used the gold acrylic. And you can mix a couple colors if you want. Just don't get too crazy. Make sure you really understand your colors if you're mixing more than 3 colors, because what happens is if you've got like a couple secondary colors or a secondary color and 2 primary colors, you're gonna, you know, when your inks and paints start mushing, you'll end up with brown. So just really, you know, pick your tones accordingly. Or another thing, if you want to get multiple effects, is just do one color, let it dry, and then you can add another color on top. And that way you don't have to worry. If it's dry, you're good to go. So let me get this stuff out of the way here. Our cover is drying. Okay, I'm going to get this. Okay, and so the other thing that you're going to need for the cover is I've got, this is just, you know, your plain old paper towel that I have coffee stained. And I do have videos on how to coffee and tea dye papers and coffee filters and paper towels and stuff. Or if you've got coffee, just kind of dunk a paper towel in there, let it out to dry. We are going to use, it is 2-ply, so just pull one sheet off. We're going to need one of those. And we're also going to need some wax to linen. You're going to need an awl, a bone folder, and some needles for sewing. That's to construct the book after. Okay, so make sure you've got that. Put that aside for a minute because we need our paper to dry. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, and if you take a look at this, I've got a variety of like textures, textured papers, some that are painted that have art on it. So you're going to go into your junk drawer, pull out those papers, and get, just popped out of focus, get a variety of little papers. So I've supplied a couple papers for you guys. If you go and look at the download, I've provided you with pieces of my art that you can include. Or if you want to do your own art, you can prepare papers like this ahead of time, or grab what you've got and include these into your journal. If you want to make a plain journal, just grab a selection of textured papers. And I've got a few here that I'm going to use. I've got 2 different styles of linen paper, and I've got some coated paper. It's got a little bit of a gloss to it. This is really nice when you're working with inks. And I also have rice paper. Okay, so we're going to need a piece of rice paper for the insert. And then we're using some parchment paper, just from your pantry, okay? And that's going to create the pocket inside, and we're also going to do an additional page. So let's start out, while the cover's drying, to get our papers in order. And this rice paper is, let's see, it's not telling me the size. I think it's 11 by 15. Let's see. I'm going to have to measure. So 13 by 9.5. And it just so happens that this paper works out perfectly for this book, this size book. But again, you can use any size that you want. It doesn't matter because we're going to use a variety of sizes in this book. But let's start out with some of the inserts. So I'm going to start out with the rice paper. This is going to end up making like a pocket in your book. So we're going to fold in half, and then we're going to fold it again. Okay. So when we open it up, as it's going to go into the pages of our book, we're going to end up with a pocket here. So you want to leave this at the bottom, and you'll understand why later. Okay, so I've got these little ink drawings that I did on Yupo paper. And I cut the Yupo paper in half. I did a couple pieces of artwork, and I'm gonna use these. I was working on it for another project, and I didn't want to use it for the project. So I always put my little papers away and just hold on to them for, another day, or when I'm doing things like this, like journaling. So if you haven't tried Yupo paper, you have just got to. You will love it. And one day I'll do a little video of Yupo paper on ink. But we're just going to, this size, I had cut a piece of Yupo paper in half. It's 9 by 6. So the paper was 9 by 12. This is just a 6 by 9, and I cut it in half. And so as you can see, it's a little bit smaller than the paper itself, which is perfect because it's gonna, as you can see in this book, we have a number of different sizes. So that's what we're doing. We're just kind of building a little junk journal. So I'm gonna grab some other papers here, and they're all different textures and colors. I'm going to grab this paper, and what I'm going to do, let me do a little one. Okay, so in this case, this is just a regular copy paper. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this one. If I want a full sheet or a half sheet. Okay, I think I'm going to do a full sheet. And what I like to do is just tear off the edges so they're not so crisp. You know what I mean? Boy, I didn't do a very good job on that side. And that way, when it's folded, and just like I mentioned, I'm creating a variety of different sizes. So if I fold this in half, what I'm going to do is I'm leaving a little bit of space here. So I just kind of cut the edge off so it's a little choppy. And I didn't fold it directly in half. I'm just kind of eyeballing, you know, how wide do I want the page? I want to make sure it's fitting in my book here. Okay. So I've got a little bit of a flap over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over because I am going to make a little pocket on this side. Just going this way, and that's going to be a little page in my journal as well. So if we glue this side, we've got a little pocket here, and then we have artwork on both sides, which is really nice. And it's a different size there. Now you can, if you want a choppy edge, you can tear a little bit off. I'm just going to leave it. And then I want to make sure again that I'm just fitting it within the book. So I'm going to tear some off the bottom because I want the choppy edges on the bottom. And this is the size of my book. I'm going to make it about the same size as my rice paper folder. So I've got that there. I just put my ruler down, again, eyeballing it. Oops. Make sure it's straight. Okay. And I've got a little page there. I'm going to find a nice little spot for it in my book. And that's what we do. We just cut some pages to put in our book. So I've got some Yupo paper, I've got regular copy paper, rice paper. Again, just get a selection here. I've got some watercolor paper that I made some markings on, and I'm going to be using this as well. And I think what I'm going to do is just cut a piece off. Again, just eyeballing because I want different sizes, and I'm going to fold it in half. And it's not cut straight, and I'm totally okay with that because it's an art junk journal. I want different pages. And when you're assembling pages, you're just gonna keep adding them to figure out, you know, how you want it to look when you open your book. I also have some plain pages because I'm gonna want to create some art in my book. So these are just regular 8.5 by 11 that I'm folding. That's gonna go in my book. So I'm going to have to trim the edges here a bit. And then the length, let's get some off. Ooh, I really made this one crooked. Hang on, let me fix this a bit. This is a little too crooked for my taste. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to get a little bit off on the bottom. About an inch. And cut about 1/2 inch off the top. Okay, some plain papers in there. Kind of like how this was looking, having that black and white peek out. So I think I'm just gonna, oops. And you can arrange this. I mean, I'm probably going to rearrange this over and over and over. That's just what ends up working. And then I think for this piece of paper, I'm gonna fold the long way, so I have kind of a tall, thinner piece that can go in behind here. And I'll just cut that in half. Let me do this just to see where the half mark is, because I can use the other half for another journal. Okay, it's got another piece of paper. Let's see where I can fit that one in. That's looking good. Okay, so I want a couple more colored papers here. I've got one here. Now I've supplied this for you guys on the downloads. So feel free to go and, you know, print some of these off if you like. Or just go and do some, you know, creative mark making on your papers. Because that's what it's all about, just being creative. Okay. And I'm trying to think, so what I really like to make pockets with these pages that are a little bit longer. Because they're really nice for tucks. So again, the same concept as we did over there. I think with this one, I'm going to tear a little bit off though, because I do want like kind of a more rough edge. And the copy paper is pretty easy to tear. Okay, so that's nice. And I'll do the same on this side because I just don't want that line showing. If you're more comfortable using a cutter or scissors, you know, by all means, go ahead and do that. Okay. So at this time, I'm just going to do my fold on the inside. Like so. So we'll have a little pocket there. And I've got to cut it down a bit. So let's see. Oops. About there. About 1.25 inches. And the reason why I just eyeball things is I don't want the pages all the same size. I want a variety of textures, sizes, colors. Put that in there. And then, so I've got majority of my art there in the front pages. And then I've got, I want to get, I think, some color in between these two pages. So I think I'll just grab one of my art pages again on Yupo paper. So this is why it's nice, handy just to have like some of your art. If you do jelly prints, you could put jelly prints, and use those pages to create your book. And I've got that, and I'll get one more in the center, and I think I'm just going to use a piece of watercolor paper that I did some markings on, and I'm just using the book here to gauge where I should fold it. And when you're folding papers, you can decide here if, like, do I want to cut it, or do I want to create a fold so that it kind of pops out? So let's just, I think I'm going to fold it over this way, because if this is in the center of my book, I think it would be really cute just to kind of have this flip open, and then you have a piece of art. Okay, so those are the inside pages we've created. This is our signature. Okay, so now that we've created our signature, let's work on the book cover. So I've got one here that that's already dry. This one is not quite dry yet, but what you're going to do to get this texture when the watercolor paper is dry is you're just going to start scrunching it. Now I've got some ink there that's wet, so I'm going to avoid, but you're just going to scrunch. Let me get a paper towel to get some of this ink off so I could at least show you. Okay, so we're going to scrunch. We're just going to scrunch it up. Get some grit in there, and it's nice when it's still like a little bit damp, but the ink is dried, it's all absorbed. And you're just going to scrunch it, open it up, scrunch it again. And what happens is you get that kind of like leathery effect. And you start seeing the little cracks. And because this is very thick paper, it won't rip on you. But this is how you get that really neat texture, and that's going to be your book. So I scrunched this quite a bit. Like I sat there and worked at it, because the other thing is the more and more you scrunch it up, it breaks up all those little paper fibers, and it softens the paper as well. So you get a nice, soft, leathery cover. Now, once that's done, what I do is I stick it on the iron and I'll iron it out just to like flatten it up a bit. And it's not going to get super flat. Like, as you can see by this one, it's still a little bumpy, but it will get all those kind of big bumps out of the way. So I've got two here that I already did, and that's going to be the book cover. So let's see, I hope this fit inside. I'm trying to figure out which cover I want to use, because I do have two prepared. This is kind of cute because it's black and pink on that side. This one might be a little too short for my book. I can make it work, but I think I'm going to go with this cover. So once you've ironed that out, okay, all you're going to do is, actually, we're not folding it yet. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so a couple things we're going to do. We are going to do a parchment paper pocket on the insert. So this is just regular parchment paper from your pantry, and you're going to tear it roughly the same size as your book. Just go about 1/4 of an inch thinner, because it is going to lay on the inside of your book. And what I did is I left about 1/2 inch on the edge. Let me just kind of tear up this edge a bit, you know, one of my tears, to get a little bit of a rough. Okay, so we're going to leave about 1/2 inch on both sides, because these are going to end up being pockets. Come on, baby. There. Okay. So you've got your little parchment paper cut, and all you're going to do is scrunch that baby up. Okay, and you're going to get a nice little texture. Okay, and then you're going to need some tacky glue. Okay, glue stick's not going to cut it. Another thing you can do if you want is just take your sewing machine and stitch it. I'm not stitching this one today. I'm just going to use tacky glue, and we're going to run tacky glue along the top of the long side here. Oops. So at the top and the bottom. Let me just get my scrap piece of paper under here, because there's glue that's going to squirt out. Okay, and then we are just going to paste it on the inside of the book. And then what I like to do is, I've just got, you know, an old credit card here, and you're just gonna swipe the glue up so that it spreads up in there to seal that pocket. Okay, and then the same thing on this side. And then you can just get a scrap piece of paper towel and just wipe off any excess glue that's popping out. Okay, and once we sew this book in, you're going to have a lovely little pocket on the inside of your book. Okay, so then let's flip that over. This is where the coffee or tea stained paper towel comes into effect. So I've got the kind where it's the little half sheets. I like these, they work perfect. So you're just going to grab a piece, and again, we're just going to crinkle it up. And what happens is it looks like a linen fabric. So we're really creating, you know, some faux fabric finishes with paper. Okay, and this is going to go over the cover of your book. And then what I did on this one, I want to show you how to do, is I just kind of roped a little bit of waxed linen around. So grab a piece. Where's my scissors? And let's see. I think I did, yeah, like 2 lengths of waxed linen. And I am just going to take the linen and just loosely wrap it around like so. Okay, and you're going to have these little pieces hanging out just like that. Okay, don't tie it or anything. And flip it upside down and just keep it here for now. Now what we're going to do is add some tacky glue just across your cover like so. Get your old card and start spreading it, because we're going to get this stained paper towel down to mimic the linen. Okay. So the little ropes that we put around, make sure that the tags are this way so you can tie after. And we're just going to, and just let them be free. We can pull them after. I think I'm going to add one more loop in here. And then what you're going to do is just start pressing down your paper towel. Okay, whoops. My little strings were supposed to be wrapped around. Okay. So you kind of want them random, like so. And you can pull and adjust them after. And just start pressing down your towel. Okay, might be wider in some areas, thinner in others, and just get that pressed down. And then at this point, you can adjust these little strings to where you want them. Okay, they're just random. Just gonna get a little more glue down here. And it just ends up looking like vintage linen, you know, because of the coffee stain. Just add more glue where needed. Okay. If you want to go and decoupage on top, you can. I don't do it because then it makes it look a little more plasticky, and I kind of like it keeping, I like that soft kind of linen feel. If there's excess glue on your paper, just take a paper towel and clean it up. And then I'm just going to flip it, and then over here with just the excess, if there is a little excess, you can cut it off if you want. What I do is just kind of fold it over, or you can leave it if you like. I just like to fold it over, and you get a little bit of that tea cloth showing when you open up the book. Now I got glue all over my hands. Okay. And then if you want, just tie a loose knot to kind of get it out of the way. It doesn't matter if there's little big pieces hanging out and stuff. We're going to put an embellishment over it, but we're going to leave some of this exposed, which will be nice. Okay. So let's get this out of the way. So ideally you're going to let that dry. I'm not going to do it because I want you guys to be with me here when I'm creating this. Okay, we're just going to fold it in half. And do not go over where the paper towel is, because you will tear it. Just use your bone folder to put a crease on the rest of it and just kind of press down there. So there's your cover, and we'll finish the embellishment portion of it after. One thing that I didn't do here was I like to add like another piece of kind of wrinkly wax paper inside. I like the texture of it. So if you've got a piece on hand, you can add that. It's just really neat texture for your little journals to put maybe between like one of your papers in the center of the book. It's just really cute, and you can see through it too, so it adds nice texture. So now make sure that you have all your pages aligned and how you want them organized in your book, because once it's sewn, you're not going to be able to fix it. So make sure all your pages are where you want them. I'm just gently lining them up, making sure they're where I want them to be. Okay, like so. And then you'll center it in your cover. Okay, and then what I do at this point is get clips to clip the pages together. So I do one on each side. I'm going to do one at the top too because I've got kind of this long piece. So clip them in so they don't move around while we sew. And then we are going to do just the 3-hole pamphlet stitch on this one. And I'm sure you've seen me do it before. So we're just going to get our awl, poke a hole in the center. And then I would normally go about 1 inch from the top and the bottom. But because I have a smaller piece inside, I think what I'll do is a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. Let's do that because I want to make sure that this is secure. So we're going to do one in the middle, 1 inch from the top, and then we're going to go between the two here to end up with 5 holes. And then again, 1 in the center of the middle and the top one. I'm just going through them again to make sure. Okay. Okay, so we've got our 5 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then get yourself your waxed linen. If you don't have waxed linen, you can use thread, string. Another good thing to use is the embroidery thread. And you'll need to make sure that you have a needle wide enough to fit it. But you're going to do 3 lengths of the book. And thread your needle. Oops. Okay. And we are going to start on the outside. So you're going to go through the center hole first. Okay, and then you're going to go up 1. My page moved just a bit, so I had to realign it. So you're leaving a little string here. So we went into the next one, then we're going to go into the top this way. Okay, and then we're going to go into the second hole again. So this is the second time you're going through this one. Okay. And then you're going to skip the middle and go into the next hole, not the very top, but this middle one here. Okay, and then through the top, and then through the middle one again. and then back through the center, and that's the last one. And you want to make sure you're coming up on the opposite side of the thread. So because we went past the center one, your thread that you started with is on the left here. You want this thread to be on the right. Okay, and then just tug a little bit, and then you're going to go right over left and left over right. Okay, so our book is sewn. You can remove all the clips. Okay, and then what I do now to complete this, let me just put a little clip over here to keep the book flat for a second. Okay, so you've got the cords in the middle. What I do is just tie them. Right over left, left over right. Just like that. And then I brought these over to attach to it. So bring one of the center cords to the middle, and again tie it left over right, right over left, and then the same thing with this one, with the other cord that's hanging down. Left over right, right over left. Okay, and then you have these cute little strings hanging out. And then what we're going to do is get our embellishment. You don't have to use this embellishment. You can use dried flowers, you can use pictures. I think I have a couple dried flowers here. So if you wanted, you know, you could do something like that, a dried flower, or any kind of embellishment that you have. I do like these. They're so elegant. This one I created just using a piece of glass. I stamped one of my custom stamps on a piece of rice paper and just Mod Podged it on the back, and then I took my waxed aged, I think brass it is, just to embellish the sides. And again, like I mentioned, I have a tutorial on how to make these if you go back in the video. And then what I'm going to do is figure out how this goes on. I think with this one, I am going to plug it up here because I like how this cord shows. In this one, I put it right over top. So just work with your composition to see where you want it. And then get yourself some E6000 and dollop that on the back. You can use a glue gun too if you want. I use E6000 for everything. So good. I know that's not going to come off. And then you just get your embellishment where you want it. Make sure your little cords are where you want it. Okay, I like these things kind of sticking up all over the place. Just like so. And you'll just let it dry. But look how cute that is. And then the last thing I did is I just wanted that finished book look. So I went around, I've got this rounded edge trimmer and just trimmed the edges. just like so. Okay, so I'm going to leave that clipped because there is one last thing that I did to the cover, and I created these little kind of corners. And let me grab my cutter over here. Okay. So I just cut a 1-inch strip of watercolor paper, the same paper, and it's going to be 1 inch by 2 inches in length, each corner. And you need 4 of them. Okay. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to fold them in half. So you're going to end up with like 1 by 1 squares. Oh, my hands are so full of gunky glue. Use your bone folder just to get that nice and flat. And this adds a nice finish to the book. Okay, now it's pretty thick. It's too thick to go through my trimmer, but what I do is just kind of press it in so I could see where I need to cut it. And then I use my scissors to round up the edge. So you're going to round one corner where the fold is. So if you open it up, you end up with something like this. Okay. And then what you're going to do is just snip it, oops, into a triangle. So this is what you end up with. And that's going to fit right over the corner of your book. And we're going to use some wax to cover that up. I just want to try and get something heavy on this while it's gluing. Okay, so do all 4 corners. Oh, that one actually almost went through. Okay, there's 2. Three, and my last one. And 4. Okay, and just put my needle away here so I don't lose it. Ah, it went under. Okay, I can get that after. All right. Got my scrap piece of paper here again. So I like to use this Art Alchemy. This one's Age Brass. It's just a wax finish. So you're going to open these up And we're just going to take a little bit on our finger and rub it on. I'm going to do all 4. If you don't have this, you can use your gold ink or paint or brass, whatever one, you know, finish that you like. Those are some options. Or you can just use like a colored paper if you want. And then what I do is I just take a paper towel and kind of rub it in. So there's your corners. Okay, let's just put that aside for a minute. Okay, so let me just show you the inside of this first before we put the corners on, because I'm going to clip it. But here's your cover, the really pretty embellishment. And then when you open up, you've got a nice little pocket here. You can put artwork in or a card. You can shove whatever you want in there. Another thing that I like to do is these folds that we did. If you just put a little bit, you can use a glue stick if you want. I just happen to have my tacky glue, but just, you know, put a little bit of glue to make a pocket. Fold it over. You don't have to. You can leave it, you know, so that you're opening it if you want. But this allows you, again, you know, to have a little pocket if you want to make some tags or do something fun to stick in there, or a little zine. And then you've got pages. The beauty about surfacing your pages before you do the book is that you've already got artwork within the book. You don't have to, you know, work within it. And that's a really nice, this is a really nice idea if you have a lot of, you know, pretty papers that you've stamped or some artwork that you did and you like to work on paper. Incorporate it into a little journal or a little book. So I left some little pages here that I can do art on, or I could write notes in. And we put in a little bit of this parchment paper, which adds a really nice texture. You can see through it. Again, you know, you can turn this into a pocket if you want. If you want to stitch or glue this here and have this as a pocket and have an insert, you could do that, or you could just leave it. You can put, what's nice too is you can take some of this waxed cream, and let me just show you on a scrap piece of paper. But if you have, like here, we scrunched up our wax paper, and you rub a little bit of this on, you get like that nice kind of texture and gold effect. Look how pretty that is. Okay, so you could do that to the pages in here. You could do that to your cover in here if you want. There's all kinds of possibilities. And then I've got, look at my finger. So we've got that and more art. And again, just some plain pages that, you know, you can do anything with. You want to do some more ink drawings, you can actually rework some of the artwork that's in there. Again, I've given you some download. Feel free to work on top of it. Take the scrap pieces of, you know, once you've cut this off and you've got like your little scraps. Do I have any? You know, you've got little scraps and colors. You can collage, take little pieces off and create new artwork, you know, something like that. Or use the black and white side to add textures over this, or to add a little bit over here. You know, keep those papers and use them to rework. Okay, so here we've got our rice paper pocket. Now, I love this because what I like to do is just fold the rice paper over like this, like a little napkin fold. and then put a little glue over here. And you create another little pocket. But what's nice is this rice paper is so thin you can see the artwork underneath. You can use this as a flip if you want and create artwork here. What I love to do with rice paper is stamp on it. If you've got, you know, an ink pad and trying to find a stamp here, got a jumbo one. I'll use my big one. But you can go ahead and stamp on it. It's amazing for stamping on. So we've got something underneath to protect it. Okay, so I've opened it up. I'm going to just do a big stamp on it. And you can use any stamp that you want. You don't have to use, you know, homemade stamp. If you've got stamps lying around. And I am just going to stamp right onto it in the middle. Another thing is you can print on the rice paper. Print some black and whites on the rice paper, and I'm going to do a little one in the corner over here. Print on it before you put it in your art journal, but look at how pretty that is. And then when it's folded over, you see through it. So you see another image of the mandala over here, and I'll probably do some writing or some ink. And then you've got a nice little pocket again to stick some art in, which is going to come through that rice paper as well. So there's all kinds of little pockets. And then over here, the nice thing is if you do a piece of artwork, I'm trying to find something. Okay, let me cut a piece here because I want you to see the effect. The nice thing about using, you know, rice paper that's thin that you can see through it. You've got a piece of art that you want to put in here, and you see it through on the back of the rice paper. So you really don't even have to embellish this if you want. You can just create art on the back of a piece of paper as an insert. And then here we did a little fold out. Okay. Which is nice if you've got a completed piece of art. And again, we've got another pocket here. So you can fold it inward or this way if you want. I think I'm just going to fold it back this way. You don't have to. You can glue the top over here and have a pocket, just like a little sleeve in the middle with artwork that's going to go in here. So I think I'll just leave that for now. Okay, and again here, you can leave this as a fold out. I think we glued one side. Yeah, we had a pocket here. You know, you can stick some artwork in or a tag. If you want, you can do the same thing over here and make this a pocket, or you can just leave it as a flip like that with art on it. Okay, so there's lots of options. And then going through the book, you've got more art here. Again, some vellum, some blank pages to get creative. I'll probably rework some of these pages. Okay, and I'll do a flip through when I have my book completed so you guys can see what kind of things that I've done. And again, the front cover and the back cover have this nice little sleeve that now you can put a piece of artwork in, and you could put multiple pieces of artwork in, and you've got something interesting on the front and the back. So that's our little journal. And let's just finish up the corners here. So basically what you're going to do is just get some tacky glue. and get glue on both sides. Okay, and you're going to fold over the corner, and this is where you're going to need your clip, bulldog clip, to clip it. Get a little paper towel to wipe away the excess glue. Okay, so you're going to do that on all 4 corners. I don't like that one there. It doesn't have enough. I'll use that on the back. Okay. Fold it over and clip. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing on the back. I think this one has. This just adds a really nice finish to the book. Okay, so now all you got to do is let it sit and dry. Your little painted paper journal is complete. There's the tutorial. Here is the other one that I made. So you can see how they, you know, will vary in size. This one's a little bit bigger. Of course, the colors are different. So, you know, you can really just customize this to your liking. And here's the little one that I did earlier. See how I've got the little pocket in the front, but I also added like a larger piece of parchment paper over here that I'll probably add some texture to with a little pocket. So each one will just end up being completely different. Got some blank pages, have some artwork. Here I have some watercolor ink. There's another pocket here. Everyone is just completely different. So you customize yours how you enjoy it, how you like it, play around. You can fiddle around with, you know, different types of paper. Use watercolor paper. This is watercolor paper. Use a piece of Yupo paper. Make sure you, if you're using Yupo paper, to get your design on ink on it first, because unless you're using like dry on dry, but Yupo paper is just fun when you're working with texture. I've got some like linen papers in there, regular copy paper, and you can use vellum, rice paper, whatever, you know, whatever you've got on hand. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial, you guys, and I would love to see how your little journals turned out. So go ahead, and if you're not part of collaborating through art on my Facebook page, then go ahead and join the group and share your images over there. Okay, and if you have any questions, just leave them below. I'll get back to you, I promise. Thanks for watching, guys.